Have you ever witnessed a moment when cruelty transforms into something beautiful? When what was meant to break someone becomes the foundation of their happiness? If this story touches your heart, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel for more stories that remind us of the unexpected ways love finds us. Emma Wilson had always lived in a world of silence. Born deaf, she had learned to navigate life through vibrations, expressions, and the graceful movements of her hands. At 25, she worked as a graphic designer at Meridian Publishing, where her talent spoke volumes even when her voice couldn't. Her colleagues admired her work, but few made the effort to truly know her. The communication barrier created a distance that Emma had grown accustomed to, though it left a hollow ache in her chest that grew more pronounced with each passing day. The office holiday party was in full swing when Vanessa, the marketing director, approached Emma with an exaggerated smile. Emma could read the insincerity in her eyes, but she returned the smile anyway, always hoping for genuine connection. Through an interpreter, Vanessa invited Emma to dinner the following evening, claiming she'd met someone perfect for her. "He's successful, handsome, and so excited to meet you," Vanessa signed clumsily, having learned a few basic phrases to communicate with Emma. What Emma didn't see was the exchange of smirks between Vanessa and her friends from accounting. She didn't hear their whispered jokes about setting up the deaf girl with a fictional date, planning to leave her waiting alone at an expensive restaurant as some twisted form of entertainment. Emma, with her perpetual optimism, simply nodded and thanked Vanessa, her heart fluttering with hope that perhaps this time, someone had seen beyond her disability. The restaurant Vanessa had chosen was Lumiere, the most exclusive dining establishment in the city. Emma spent hours preparing, selecting a midnight blue dress that complemented her pale skin and auburn hair. She practiced her expressions in the mirror, rehearsing how she might communicate with her date without making him uncomfortable. Her hands trembled as she applied her makeup, a mixture of excitement and anxiety coursing through her veins. Across town, Alexander Hayes was reviewing quarterly reports in his penthouse office. At 34, he had built Hayes Innovations from the ground up, transforming it into one of the most successful tech companies in the country. Business magazines called him brilliant, ruthless, and enigmatic. What they didn't mention was how lonely success could be, especially when raising a 7-year-old daughter alone after his wife's death 3 years prior. "Daddy, you promised we'd have pizza tonight," Lily reminded him, her small hands signing the words as she spoke them, a habit she'd developed since Alexander had begun learning sign language. After losing her mother, Lily had stopped speaking for nearly a year. It was a therapist who suggested learning ASL together as a way to create a special bond between them, a private language that belonged just to them. What had started as therapy had become a passion for Alexander, who now volunteered at a school for deaf children whenever his schedule allowed. "You're right, Princess," Alexander signed back, closing his laptop. "Pizza it is. Where should we go?" Lily's face lit up. "Lumiere. They have the best pizza." Alexander laughed. "Lumiere doesn't serve pizza, sweetheart. It's a fancy restaurant for grown-ups." "But Miss Caroline said they have the best food in the city," Lily argued, referring to her nanny. "And I'm dressed fancy." She twirled in her purple dress, the one she insisted on wearing despite Alexander's attempts to convince her that jeans would be more comfortable. Looking at his daughter's hopeful expression, Alexander felt his resolve weaken. "All right, Lumiere it is. But if they don't have pizza, you'll have to try something new. Deal?" "Deal." Lily signed enthusiastically, already racing toward the elevator. Emma arrived at Lumiere precisely at 7, her heart pounding so loudly she imagined she could hear it. The maitre d' led her to a table for two by the window, overlooking the city lights that sparkled like earthbound stars. She ordered a glass of water and waited, her eyes darting to the entrance each time the door opened. 7:30 came and went. Then 8. Emma's water glass had been refilled 3 times, and the sympathetic glances from the waitstaff were becoming unbearable. She checked her phone repeatedly, but there were no messages from Vanessa or this mystery man. A sinking feeling began to replace her earlier excitement. She'd been stood up. Just as Emma was gathering her purse to leave, a small hand tapped her shoulder. She turned to find a little girl with blonde pigtails and bright blue eyes staring up at her. To Emma's surprise, the child's hands began to move in familiar patterns. "Are you waiting for someone?" the girl signed perfectly. Stunned, Emma nodded and signed back, "Yes, but I don't think they're coming." "That's sad," the girl responded. "My daddy and I are having dinner, but they don't have pizza. Would you like to join us?" "I'm Lily." Before Emma could respond, a tall figure appeared behind Lily. Emma looked up into the most intense green eyes she'd ever seen, set in a face that seemed carved from marble, strong jawline, straight nose, and lips that curved into an apologetic smile. "I'm sorry about my daughter," the man signed fluently. "She tends to adopt strays, people and animals alike." Emma's eyes widened in surprise. "You sign?" "Yes," he replied, his hands moving gracefully. "I'm Alexander Hayes." "And you've already met the boss, Lily." Lily tugged at her father's sleeve. "Daddy, she's eating alone." "It's not good to eat alone." "You always say that." Alexander looked at Emma, really looked at her, taking in her elegant dress, her carefully styled hair, and the unmistakable disappointment in her eyes. "Were you stood up?" he asked directly. Emma hesitated, embarrassment coloring her cheeks. "I think it might have been a joke," she admitted, the realization hitting her fully as she signed the words. Something flashed in Alexander's eyes, anger, perhaps, or indignation on her behalf. "Then they're fools," he signed decisively. "Would you honor us by joining our table? I promise Lily's conversation is far more interesting than mine." Emma should have said no. She should have maintained her dignity and left. But there was something in Alexander's gaze that held no pity, only genuine interest, and Lily's hopeful expression was impossible to resist. "I'd like that," she signed, gathering her purse. As Alexander led her to their table, Emma didn't notice Vanessa and two colleagues from accounting entering the restaurant, their laughter dying on their lips as they spotted her with one of the most recognizable businessmen in the city. Dinner with Alexander and Lily was unlike anything Emma had experienced. Lily chattered in sign language about school, her pet goldfish named Bubble, and her dream of becoming an astronaut veterinarian princess. Alexander translated the verbal parts of their conversation with the waitstaff effortlessly, making Emma feel included in every aspect of the meal. "How did you learn to sign so well?" Emma asked as they waited for dessert. Alexander's expression softened. "After my wife died," Lily stopped speaking. "A therapist suggested sign language as a way to communicate without words. It became our thing, and then I started volunteering at the Hartford School for the Deaf. Now I'm on their board of directors." "The Hartford School?" "That's where I went," Emma signed, surprised at the connection. "Small world," Alexander replied, his smile reaching his eyes. "They still display your artwork in the main hall. The series of hands expressing different emotions. It's powerful." Emma couldn't believe he knew her work. "You've seen it?" "Many times. I never knew the artist, though. Until now." Their conversation flowed easily, covering art, business, family, and dreams. Emma found herself laughing more than she had in years, her hands flying as she told stories that Alexander and Lily followed with genuine interest. For once, her deafness wasn't a barrier but simply another facet of who she was. As they were finishing their dessert, chocolate soufflé that Lily declared was better than pizza, Emma noticed Vanessa approaching their table, her face a mask of false concern. "Emma! There you are," Vanessa exclaimed, speaking slowly and over-enunciating as if that would help Emma understand. "I've been so worried. There was a mix-up with your date. He called me saying he couldn't make it, but my phone died before I could tell you." Emma didn't need to hear Vanessa's voice to recognize the lie in her expression. She felt her chest tighten with humiliation, realizing that her suspicions had been correct. It had all been a cruel joke. Before Emma could respond, Alexander stood, his imposing height making Vanessa take a step back. "You must be from Emma's office," he said coolly, not bothering to sign as he spoke. Vanessa's eyes widened as she recognized him. "Mr. Hayes." Yes, I work with Emma at Meridian. I'm Vanessa Clark, Marketing Director." "Ms. Clark," Alexander's voice was polite but glacial. "I find it interesting that you claim to have tried to contact Emma about this supposed mix-up, yet I've been watching her check her phone all evening. No messages, no calls." Vanessa paled. There must have been a network issue." "Perhaps," Alexander interrupted. "Or perhaps you should know that Meridian Publishing is currently in negotiations with Hayes Innovations for an exclusive digital distribution contract. I was impressed with their portfolio, particularly the graphic design work, which I now know is Emma's." He turned to Emma and signed, "Would you prefer I continue this conversation, or would you like to address her directly?" Emma stood, her posture straight and dignified. She signed her response, which Alexander translated aloud for Vanessa's benefit. "Emma says she appreciates your concern, but she's enjoying her evening with us and doesn't need your explanations. She also says that on Monday, she'll be happy to show you her designs for the Hayes Innovations campaign, which she's been selected to lead." This last part was Alexander's addition, a fact that wasn't lost on Emma, but she maintained her composed expression as Vanessa stammered an apology and retreated to her table, where her colleagues were pretending not to watch the exchange. When Vanessa was gone, Emma turned to Alexander. "Thank you, but you didn't have to do that." "I didn't do anything except expose a lie," he signed. "The part about you leading the campaign was improvisation, but now that I think about it, I'd like to make it true. Your work is exceptional, and I trust you far more than I trust your colleagues." Lily, who had been watching the exchange with interest, tugged at Emma's sleeve. "Does this mean you'll come to our house sometime? Daddy makes terrible spaghetti, but I have a lot of books we could read together." Emma looked from Lily to Alexander, seeing in both their faces an openness and acceptance that she'd rarely encountered. "I'd like that very much," she signed, her heart lighter than it had been in years. As they left the restaurant, Alexander handed Emma his business card with his personal number written on the back. "No pressure," he signed, "but Lily and I would genuinely like to see you again. Perhaps without the audience." He nodded toward Vanessa's table, where the three women were huddled in conversation, occasionally glancing their way. Emma took the card, her fingers brushing against his. "I'd like that too," she signed, a smile blooming on her face. The following Monday, Emma arrived at work to find an email from the CEO announcing a new partnership with Hayes Innovations, with Emma named as the lead designer for the project. Vanessa avoided her gaze in the morning meeting, and whispers followed Emma through the hallways, but this time, they were whispers of admiration and curiosity rather than mockery. That evening, Emma received a text from Alexander. "Lily wants to know if you like pizza. I promised her we'd find a place that serves it next time." Emma smiled as she typed her reply, "I love pizza. And I'd love to see you both again." What had begun as a cruel joke had led Emma to something she'd almost stopped believing in, the possibility of connection, of being seen for who she truly was. And as for Alexander and Lily, they found in Emma someone who understood that family could be built in silence as well as in sound, that love didn't need words to be expressed, only hearts willing to listen in whatever way they could. 6 months later, when Alexander proposed to Emma in sign language at the Hartford School for the Deaf, beneath her artwork that had first caught his attention, Vanessa and her friends received elegant invitations to the wedding. Not out of malice or revenge, but because Emma and Alexander wanted them to witness what their cruelty had inadvertently created, a love story that transcended silence, that spoke volumes without a single word being uttered. Sometimes, the universe has a way of transforming our deepest hurts into our greatest blessings. Emma and Alexander's story reminds us that love finds its way to those who keep their hearts open, even after disappointment. It teaches us that what makes us different isn't something to mock or pity, but something to celebrate and cherish. If this story touched your heart, please like and subscribe for more tales of unexpected love and second chances. Remember, the cruelest joke might just lead to the most beautiful love story, if you're brave enough to stay at the table just a little bit longer.